The conference room went quiet when Lieutenant Commander Sarah Reeves walked in. Not the respectful quiet that greeted senior officers, the other kind. The skeptical silence that happened when someone's credentials seemed too good to be true, and everyone in the room had already decided they were looking at a fraud. Sarah had seen it before. The sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when she got close. The assumptions that somehow her service record, 12 years, 4 combat deployments, 2 Bronze Stars, a Silver Star, and a classified mission list that read like a greatest hits of special operations, had to be exaggerated or fabricated, or the result of someone padding her file to make her look better than she actually was. She took her seat at the long table and set down her briefing folder without acknowledging the stares. The Navy's Personnel Selection Board had convened to review candidates for promotion to commander and assignment to high-level strategic positions. Sarah was one of 15 officers under consideration. She was also the only woman in the room, and at 34, one of the youngest. The board president, a captain named Morrison, with 30 years of service, and a face that suggested he'd spent most of them disapproving of things, opened her file and frowned at it like it had personally offended him. Lieutenant Commander Reeves, according to your record, you've served with SEAL Team 6, participated in classified operations in 7 countries, earned expert qualifications in advanced weapon systems, and received commendations from 3 different theater commanders. He looked up. That's quite a resume for someone who's only been in the Navy for 12 years. Yes, sir. Sarah kept her voice neutral, professional. Some of these assignments seem unusual for your designator. You're an intelligence officer, not a special operations combat role. Yet your file shows extended deployments embedded with tactical units. Care to explain that? I was assigned as an intelligence liaison to Special Operations Forces. My role required deploying with the teams to provide real-time analysis and targeting support in the field. In the field, Morrison repeated, meaning you were actually on these missions, not analyzing from a TOC or a rear position? Correct, sir. My assignment required forward deployment. A commander at the far end of the table, a man named Stevens, with a skeptical expression that looked permanent, spoke up. Lieutenant Commander, I've been in the intelligence community for 18 years. I've never heard of an intel officer deploying on direct action missions with SEAL teams. That's simply not how it works. With respect, sir, it is how it worked for my assignments. The missions required specialized intelligence support that couldn't be provided remotely. I was trained, vetted, and cleared for direct participation. Trained by whom? SEAL Team 6 personnel, 8-week course at Dam Neck. Small arms, close quarters combat, tactical movement, emergency medical response, and specialized intelligence gathering under hostile conditions. Stevens laughed. Not a friendly sound. You expect us to believe that SEAL Team 6 trained an intel officer in their tactics and then took you on actual operations? I don't expect you to believe anything, sir. I'm stating what's in my official record. Morrison leaned back in his chair, exchanging glances with the other board members. The problem, Lieutenant Commander, is that your record reads like fiction. Like someone took every prestigious assignment in the Navy and put them all in one file. It's statistically improbable. It raises questions about accuracy and verification. Sarah felt the anger building but kept it off her face. This was the game. They'd already decided she was either lying or someone had lied for her. Her actual performance didn't matter. Her real experience didn't count. They'd made up their minds before she walked in the room. My record is accurate, sir. Every assignment, every commendation, every qualification is documented and verified through official channels. Documented by whom? Stevens leaned forward. because I took the liberty of making some calls before this board convened. I reached out to contacts in the special operations community. Nobody I spoke to had ever heard of you. No one could confirm that an intel officer named Reeves had ever deployed with their teams. Did you reach out through official channels or personal networks? What's the difference? The difference, sir, is that most of my work was classified at compartmented levels. The people who know about it aren't going to confirm or deny anything to someone making unofficial inquiries. That's basic operational security. Morrison cut in. So we're supposed to just take your word for it? Accept this record at face value despite the fact that it seems implausible and no one can verify it? You're supposed to trust the official documentation that the Navy itself generated and maintained. If there were discrepancies, they would have been flagged years ago during security clearance renewals and fitness reports. Unless someone was covering for you, building a record to fast-track your career. Sarah's jaw tightened. Sir, are you accusing me of falsifying my service record? I'm saying that this board has concerns about the accuracy of the information presented. We have a responsibility to ensure that promotions are based on genuine merit, not inflated credentials. The door at the back of the conference room opened. Everyone turned to look. A tall man in service dress blues walked in with 4 stars on his shoulder boards and a presence that immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. Rear Admiral James Keller, commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, one of the most respected officers in the Navy and someone whose operational credentials were beyond question. Morrison stood so fast, his chair scraped backward. Admiral, we weren't expecting them. Sit down, Captain. Keller's voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. He walked to the front of the room and turned to face the board. I understand you're questioning Lieutenant Commander Reeves's service record. Sir, we're conducting a routine review of all candidates for... Cut the bullshit, Captain. I was in the building for other meetings and heard that this board was expressing doubts about one of my people. So I came down here to clear things up personally. Keller looked directly at Sarah. Lieutenant Commander, stand up, please. Sarah stood. Keller turned back to the board. I'm going to walk through her record. Every mission, every assignment, every commendation. And when I'm done, if any of you still have questions about whether she earned her place here, you can direct those questions to me. The room was absolutely silent. Keller pulled out a tablet and began reading. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Reeves, commissioned through ROTC in 2014. Distinguished graduate. First assignment was intelligence analysis at Fleet Cyber Command. Unremarkable first tour, standard performance. Then in 2016, she volunteered for a joint interagency task force focused on counterterrorism targeting. That's where things get interesting. He looked up from the tablet. The task force was developing a new methodology for real-time intelligence fusion during direct action missions. The problem was that intel officers were providing targeting packages from rear positions. But the information was degrading by the time it reached the shooters. We needed someone who could deploy forward, process intelligence on site, and provide immediate guidance to the assault teams. Morrison started to speak. Keller held up a hand. Lieutenant Reeves volunteered for the pilot program. She went through an abbreviated version of our tactical training. 8 weeks at Dam Neck, like she said. She wasn't training to be a shooter. She was training to survive and operate in the same environments as the shooters. And before anyone asks, yes, this was my program. I personally approved her selection and monitored her training. Stevens looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant, but said nothing. Keller continued. Her first operational deployment was 2017. embedded with a SEAL element conducting maritime interdiction operations in the Arabian Gulf. Her role was intelligence support. She provided real-time analysis of vessel movements, personnel identification, and threat assessment. The operation resulted in the seizure of weapons shipments that would have armed terrorist networks for the next 2 years. The team commander's after-action report specifically cited her contribution as mission critical. He scrolled through his tablet. Second deployment, 2018. Syria, urban combat environment. She was attached to a joint task force targeting ISIS leadership. Her intelligence work led to the identification and elimination of 3 high-value targets in a 6-week period. One of those targets was the financial coordinator for the entire Eastern Syria network. Removing him disrupted funding for operations that would have killed hundreds of civilians. Sarah stood at attention, her face carefully neutral, while the Admiral systematically dismantled every doubt the board had raised. Third deployment, 2019, Afghanistan. She was embedded with a special operations unit conducting direct action missions against Taliban commanders. During one operation, the team walked into an ambush. Lieutenant Reeves was wounded, took shrapnel from an IED that killed 2 SEALs and wounded 4 others. She rendered first aid to the casualties while under fire, then provided tactical intelligence that allowed the team to identify the ambush positions and eliminate the threat. She received a Bronze Star with V device for valor under fire. I personally signed the commendation. Morrison had gone pale. Stevens was staring at the table. Keller wasn't finished. Fourth deployment, 2021. Classified location, classified mission. I can't give you details in this setting, but I can tell you that Lieutenant Commander Reeves provided intelligence support for an operation that resulted in the rescue of American hostages held by a terrorist organization. The mission was successful, with 0 friendly casualties. She received a second Bronze Star and a classified letter of commendation from the National Security Advisor. He set down the tablet and looked at each board member in turn. Her Silver Star came from an operation in 2022. Again, I can't provide full details in an unclassified setting, but the citation is in her record, and it's real. She identified an imminent threat to American forces, provided real-time intelligence that allowed a preemptive strike, and personally assisted with casualty evacuation under hostile fire. The operation saved American lives. Period. The silence in the room was oppressive. Keller's voice went colder. Now, let me address the concerns about verification. Commander Stevens, you made calls to your contacts in the Special Operations community. Let me guess. You called people in conventional SEAL teams? Maybe some officers you knew from staff assignments, and when they couldn't confirm her deployments, you assumed she was lying. Stevens shifted uncomfortably. I was conducting due diligence. You were making assumptions. Lieutenant Commander Reeves worked almost exclusively with DevGru, SEAL Team 6. Her operations were compartmented. The people she worked with aren't going to confirm or deny anything to someone making casual inquiries, because that's how operational security works. The fact that your buddies in Team 7 never heard of her doesn't mean she wasn't doing the work. It means the work was classified above your buddies' clearance levels. Morrison tried to salvage something from the wreckage. Admiral, with respect, we had legitimate questions about what, Captain? About whether a female officer could actually earn these credentials. About whether someone must have padded her record because it seemed too impressive. Let me be very clear about something. Keller's voice cut like a knife. I have worked with some of the finest special operators this country has ever produced. SEALs who've done 20 years of direct action work. Marine raiders who've seen combat on 4 continents. I have watched Lieutenant Commander Reeves operate alongside those men and hold her own. Not because someone gave her a pass, not because anyone lowered standards, but because she was smart enough, tough enough, and dedicated enough to earn her place. He walked around the table, making eye contact with each board member. Her record is real. Every mission happened. Every commendation was earned. Every qualification was tested and verified. And the fact that this board spent time questioning it, not because there was evidence of fraud, but because the achievements seemed too impressive for someone who doesn't fit your mental image of what a special operations professional looks like. That tells me more about this board's biases than it does about her credibility. Sarah remained at attention, her face still neutral, but something had shifted in her eyes. Validation, recognition, the knowledge that someone with real authority had just confirmed what she'd known all along. She'd earned everything in that file. Keller turned to Morrison. "Captain, I'm going to make this very simple. Lieutenant Commander Reeves is one of the most capable intelligence officers I've ever worked with. Her record speaks for itself. This board will recommend her for promotion to commander and assignment to a strategic position commensurate with her experience and capabilities. Is that understood?" Morrison nodded stiffly. "Yes, sir." "Good. And if I hear that any member of this board has continued to question her credibility or spread doubts about her service, I will personally ensure that your next fitness report reflects your inability to recognize talent when it's sitting in front of you." They just said some minutes. Keller looked at Stevens. "Commander, do you have any further questions about Lieutenant Commander Reeves's qualifications?" "No, sir. No questions." "Outstanding." Keller turned to Sarah. "Lieutenant Commander, you're dismissed. This board will complete its deliberations, and you'll receive notification of the results through official channels. But between you and me, I think we both know how this is going to turn out." "I don't see why you can hear that, sir," Sarah saluted. "Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You earned it. I'm just making sure these gentlemen understand that fact." He returned the salute, and Sarah left the conference room, walking out with her head high and her record vindicated by someone who actually knew what she'd done and where she'd been. After she left, Keller remained in the room for another moment, looking at the board members with an expression that suggested he was reassessing his opinion of their collective judgment. "Gentlemen, let me leave you with one final thought. The future of naval warfare is going to require officers who can operate across multiple domains, intelligence officers who understand tactical operations, combat leaders who can process complex information in real time, people who can bridge the gap between the analysts and the shooters. Lieutenant Commander Reeves represents that future. And if this Navy is going to remain effective, we need to recognize and promote people like her. Not waste time questioning their credentials because they don't match some outdated template of what a warfighter is supposed to look like." He walked toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Captain Morrison? If I were you, I'd spend some time thinking about how this board approached this review. Because if the only reason you questioned her record was that it seemed too good to be true, that says something troubling about your assumptions. Good officers with impressive records exist. Sometimes they're women. Get used to it." Keller left. The door closed behind him. The board sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Stevens spoke quietly. "I think we should recommend her for promotion." "Agreed," Morrison said, his voice tired. "All in favor?" The vote was unanimous. 3 weeks later, Sarah received her promotion orders. Commander Reeves, assigned to the Office of Naval Intelligence with a focus on special operations, targeting, and intelligence fusion. It was exactly the kind of strategic position that someone with her background and experience should hold. She framed the promotion certificate and hung it in her office. Next to it, she placed a photo from one of her deployments. Her standing with a SEAL team in full kit somewhere in Afghanistan, the only woman in the picture, her face showing the same calm competence that had carried her through 12 years of proving herself in environments where most people assumed she didn't belong. The Admiral's intervention had been gratifying, validating, a public confirmation of everything she'd done and everywhere she'd been. But Sarah knew the truth. She hadn't needed him to stand up and confirm her record. The missions had happened whether anyone believed in them or not. The work had been done whether anyone acknowledged it or not. Her capability existed independent of anyone else's validation. But it had felt good to watch him systematically dismantle every assumption that board had made. To see their certainty crumble as someone with unquestionable authority walked through her record mission by mission and dared them to keep doubting. They'd said her record was fake, too impressive, too decorated, too accomplished for someone who looked like her, until an admiral had stood up and confirmed every single mission, every commendation, every qualification, every operation where she'd deployed forward with Special Operations Forces and done work that most people would never know about and couldn't imagine an intelligence officer performing. The record was real. It had always been real. And now, finally, the people who mattered knew it too. Sarah turned off her office light and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new assignments, new people who would make assumptions about what she could or couldn't do based on their limited understanding of who she was and what she'd accomplished. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, a moment to appreciate that sometimes, when the doubters got too loud and the skeptics too certain, someone with real knowledge would step in and speak the truth. The Admiral had confirmed her missions, but she'd been the one who completed them. And in the end, that was the only confirmation that really mattered.